hype jobs. Type of people created to make other people feel good. They're not all hype jobs. Some of them are great fighters. But trust me when I tell you, they're not what the media tells you they are. When it comes to the art of the hand-to-hand, sometimes you gotta create a man.
For the longest time, the boxing industry has been looking to duplicate a Mr. Floyd Mayweather in his style entirety, in a white version. And they will not rest or stop until they accomplish this. You'll see it countless times engineered through the social media and the big media sites. They are convinced that Boxing of America always will need a white champion as representation of its sport. And being that society has its rankings and doesn't want to move forward, they believed in an established order. And at all times try to maintain this established order. And they do so by any means necessary, even if it's desperately pleading with the crowds of boxing to convince you that one individual is on his level or better than a Mayweather, or better than a Muhammad Ali, or better than a Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm talking about a Tommy Hearns. I'm talking about a Marvin Hagler. These bastards have went that far. It's that serious. But now let's explore a little bit more into this thing that we call social media. Let's explore a little bit more into this thing we call big media sites, starting with one of the originals of creating hype trains and engineered fighters, HBO.
The guy who is designated by Ring Magazine right now as the champion of the division is Ricky Hatton. He's sitting at ringside tonight. Floyd Mayweather figures he's going to educate the ring along with everybody else tonight. And Larry Merchant, a mismatch is indeed possible, but of course, fortunately for the entertainment value of the sport, there are a lot of people who thought that Carlos Mausa would be outclassed against Vivian Harris. When we talk about Gatti, and obviously the point has been made, he had a great life going here in Atlantic City, fighting opponents who were chosen partially because he was expected to beat them, making $2 million per fight, and enjoying the extreme adoration of the crowd, which is again here tonight. Why risk all that by fighting Pretty Boy Floyd?
Because it still makes dollars and cents.
Now the funny thing is, these guys will tell you in the New York Minute that Mayweather is all about the money, and he doesn't care about the sport. It needs to be about the sport and not about the money. But here, these guys seem to have a problem with Arturo Gatti going for bigger money. Why not continue to fight the cherry picks? Why not continue to fight the bums? He has a good life going over there at HBO. But they don't want to see him step up in competition because, in their analogy, why ruin a good thing?
Gatti, being Gatti, wanted to test himself against one of the best. His handlers, being handlers, didn't want that fight. But they figured that some young gun might come along anyway and beat Gatti. So they went for the biggest event possible, for the biggest money possible, for a kind of annuity for a very worthy warrior.
Well, isn't that very sweet of Mr. Larry Merchant? how he cares so much for Arturo Gatti and his contribution with the boxing industry. Isn't that interesting? But I tell you this, folks. What's mighty suspicious to me is this man's level of understanding and love for a boxer, regardless of fighting cherry picks and bums and cab drivers after cab drivers. I'm talking about people who put loaves of bread on shelves for a living. I'll digress.
Just this last thing, Floyd. You want to go down as one of the best or the best fighters around. The best fighters have always taken on all the challenges out there. Like a Cotto or a Vernon Forrest or a Winky Wright, whoever is out there, so that you can do your thing.
I've done what I had to do in sports.
Floyd Mayweather only has one flaw in his career. That he wasn't white. Real talk. His biggest flaw in his career is that he wasn't white. Because if he had been, oh my God, the dynamic and how things would change just behind that alone is amazing.
Obviously, the point has been made. He had a great life going here in Atlantic City, fighting opponents who were chosen partially because he was expected to beat them, making $2 million. Fighting opponents who were chosen partially because he was expected to beat them, making $2 million per fight, and enjoying the extreme adoration of the crowd, which is again here tonight. Why risk all that by fighting Pretty Boy Floyd?
To go down as one of the best or the best fighters around. The best fighters have always taken on all the challenges out there.
Why risk all that by fighting Pretty Boy Floyd?
Now, did you see that right there? Why risk all that by fighting Pretty Boy Floyd? Do you see how they try to play the black American fighter? Do you see that? He basically told you on national television that Arturo Gatti fights cherry picks and hand-picked fights. Why are you going to risk fighting Floyd Mayweather when we love you for fighting a subpar competition and you making $2 million per fight? Why risk that fighting Floyd? Do you see how that is? But when it comes to Floyd, the black American fighter, he has to fight threat after threat after threat. Why he's not fighting this person? Why he's not fighting that person? Okay, you beat him, but when are you going to fight him? Okay, you beat him, but when are you going to fight him? And when it came to Arturo Gatti, they turned around and said, dude, why are you going to mess this up? You got a good thing going. You got a good life going over here at HBO. We're paying you for nothing. You're selling out for fighting on anybody. So why are you trying to mess it up? Okay, that's the biggest and the most crystal clear, perfect example that you can have right there. And that's when this all comes back to it. It's all coupled together when it comes to trying to judge Floyd Mayweather and deciding what he deserves and where he decides to be placed. It'll be forever biased because the last thing it is boxing.
People can say what they want, but Arturo Gatti was a star. You know, HBO loved the guy. You know, the guy sold out everywhere. He was beloved. He's a legend. You know, regardless of what any of us think of his resume, he's still regarded as one of the greatest boxers and in the Hall of Fame currently. So, when it comes to competition, you know, and you're judging people, the same people you use people to tear down is the same people you use to build them up. So at the end of the day, what foundation are you standing on? Capisce? You know, so when it comes down to it in a nutshell, Arturo Gatti was loved for something that you would hate Mayweather for doing. I mean, there's no way of getting around that fact. And this is what ultimately, excuse me, folks. Yeah. Ultimately, this is what led to HBO's demise. Because as much as HBO was involved in boxing, boxing was still surrounded by one man and one man alone, whom yet they still treated like a second and a third class citizen when he should have been front row with the peanuts. You know what I mean? Okay? And this is what ultimately led to the downfall of boxing with HBO, is Floyd Mayweather's departure from HBO and signing on to his new deal with Showtime crushed him in the area of boxing, and HBO was no more, all because of the fact that they had bigotry and couldn't see the foresight of boxing and see what it was really supposed to be about, with the sport of sheer competition and the joy of fans rooting and cheering for their favorite fighter at the end of the day, making those memories and moments and times and lights. I'll digress.
Manny Pacquiao. They're going to say that Floyd Mayweather Jr. never got into the ring with Pacquiao. To that you say what?
HBO's agenda to constantly push white fighters over black fighters, to keep the status quo, so to speak, to try to keep the old style, the old way of doing things in order, ultimately led to their demise in the boxing department. When it come to showcasing and putting on fights, they no longer could compete because the biggest star, the biggest anchor, the biggest speaker, the biggest beacon of the sport has just left the building, ladies and gentlemen. HBO had plenty more attempts at trying to recreate the clout of Floyd Mayweather. And we will further discuss and see those things through later on in further videos and updates. But for right now, I hope you paid attention and learned a few things today, folks, because it's a dirty game out there. And at the end of the day, you gotta keep some toilet paper with you. Well, this is your host, Pat Sorelli. This is an episode of Deeper Than Boxing, and I will talk to you later.